Hello, class. Welcome to lesson 4 for our historical fiction writing unit. Today is lesson 4, and you are going to start the drafting part of your writer's workshop process. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this. Now you can finally start your story. So, what I have on my screen here is I have set up how I would approach writing this story. So, this is a guide to try to help you. Okay. First off, I want all of you to be responsible with your writer's workshop checklist. You should be checking off a checklist as you go along to make sure you're following the writer's workshop process in a good way. Okay? So I have already marked off that I've researched my topic, I've marked off that I came up with ideas for my assignment, and I've marked off that I organized my ideas in the organization template. Okay? And now I've highlighted how I am now drafting. Drafting, you may write in a notebook, you may write on lined paper, or if you would prefer, you may type in the document that I have provided for you. Okay? We will get more into revising and editing and publishing later, but I will have a few lessons on drafting and on how you can make your story better in the days to follow before we get to revising and editing and publishing. Okay? So, again, one tab that you may want open while you are writing your historical fiction piece is the Writer's Workshop checklist, just so you make sure that you're following each step correctly. Okay? Next, I would have up your research that you have completed. I see that I have done a horrible job at my research. No. But anyway, your research will look a lot different than this because you will have at least 7 to 10 facts. And what you can do is have this tab up all the time that you are writing so you can refer back to your research that you have done and make sure that as you're writing, you are being historically accurate. Okay? Another tab I would have up is my historical fiction organization template. It will have your setting, it will have your characters that you can always refer back to if you're forgetting. But the main thing about your organization template is this part, is your beginning, your middle, and end. As you are writing a story, if you really have no direction, then your story can aimlessly wander back and forth and you really won't know where you are going to end up, which sometimes is good, especially for experienced writers. But we are learning how to write a good historical fiction story. So it's really important to know where we are going and where our characters are going as we begin a story, as we get to the middle of our story, and as we conclude our story. So as you are writing your historical fiction story, it's a good idea to have this template up. Remember the direction that you're having your story go. Okay? And then last but not least, you should have this up. I just created this for you. It's my historical fiction story. You can use this document for the entire time of drafting your story, revising your story, editing your story, and of course, publishing your story. If you would prefer to draft on paper or on in a notebook, that's totally fine. Just know that you will be publishing your paper in this document. But if you would prefer if you would prefer to write your story in this document, that's totally acceptable. Make sure you put a title, which of course can change as you continue to write your story. Make sure you put your name and then of course start your masterpiece here, right? Okay. Now, my first lesson during this fourth lesson, which is my first lesson of drafting, is I want you to consider how you're going to start your story. When you start a story, you got to consider that your reader will either find your story tremendously boring at the beginning, will find your story, it's okay at the beginning, or your reader is really going to get hooked onto your story. They are going to be like, wow, this story is awesome. Now, when I think about hooking the reader, I think about when I go fishing. Okay. When I go fishing and I have a hook and I cast it into the water and I really want to get a good big fish, right? I want that fish interested in my hook. What I want to do is make sure I put something very nice on it. Okay. Maybe a juicy worm or a really good looking lure. Okay. When you cast your story out there and give it to readers, you want to make sure the beginning of that story has a juicy worm on it or has a beautiful lure on it. It's what's going to hook the reader and make sure that they stay with your story. Okay. So, one way of doing that is beginning with action. So, I'm just going to kind of off the cuff come up with some things. So, I hope they're good examples. But one way you could start a story is begin with action. The car screeched to a halt right in front of the scared cat. Okay. Right away, the reader is wondering, why did the car suddenly screech? Was it because and stop? Was it because the cat was in the road? Or was it because for some or other reason? Why is the cat there? The reader has a whole bunch of questions already when you begin with action. Okay. You can begin with dialogue. Sally, what are you doing? Why did you just stop the car all of a sudden? Screamed Fred. So here, beginning with dialogue, you can create some excitement that's hooking the reader right away. Sally, what are you doing? Why'd you just stop the car all of a sudden? The reader right away is wondering, who's Sally? Who's Fred? Why is Fred so mad at Sally? Why did Sally stop the car all of a sudden? There is some drama going on here, and the reader's going to be interested right away. Begin with a question, right? Begin with a question. Why did that car just come to a screeching halt in front of my house at 1 in the morning? Okay. So here is actually the narrator, right, of the story at the very beginning of the story asking a question. Why did that car just come to a screeching halt in front of my house at 1 in the morning? Guess what? That hooks the reader, and the reader wants to know the answer to that question as well. And what is this person doing up at 1 in the morning? Or did they wake up because of the screeching in the outside? So that's a good way of hooking your reader as well. Begin with a shocking statement. I saw my life flash before my eyes as the car came within 3 inches of my nose. Now, if we're thinking back to maybe my other examples, this actually could be the narration of the cat, right? But we have no idea of knowing. But right away, the reader is being hooked because this character just had a brush with death. There's drama going on here, there's intrigue. What is going on here? Who almost got hit by a car? Why did they almost get hit by a car? So the reader is drawn into your story really well. Okay. And then last but not least, another way I wanted to suggest that you could um, hook your reader into your story and come up with a great way to start a story is to introduce your character in a startling way, right? Um, she was bedraggled. She was moaning. She was wet with the heavy rains, and then she almost got hit by a car. Okay. Again, I'm talking about our cat, of course, but she was bedraggled. She was moaning. She was wet with heavy rains, and then she almost got hit by a car. Okay. So someone is devastated. Now, we assume because of my other examples, this is a cat, but the reader right away would not know what is going on. Someone is in bad shape. Someone is not doing very well. Someone is out in the middle of a rainstorm, and then to top it all off, just almost got hit by a car. Very crazy, dramatic stuff going on here. Okay. So, anyway, I hope these examples help you out. I will share this with you as well, just so you can see some different ways you might want to consider starting the draft of your story. Okay. Remember, you're not really writing about cats per se getting hit by cars or almost getting hit by cars. Thank goodness the cat did not get hit by a car, but you will be writing your historical fiction piece about the Industrial Revolution. So think about ways that you could either begin with action. Is something going on in the mill, right? Or is something being invented? Begin with dialogue. Is someone warning someone of something? Begin with a question. Is something strange going on? Begin with a shocking statement. Did something just amazing happen to someone, and introduce your character in a startling way as something um, sad or really happy or really uh, crazy going on with your character. So anyway, those are 5 suggestions that I suggest you consider using one of them to hook the reader and start your story. Okay, so I hope this helped. Again, consider lining up those tabs, those particular tabs, as you are writing your story, so you can make sure you keep track of the order of your story. And again, also consider how you want to hook the reader as you begin. Okay? So, anyway, make a great story. And if you need any help, do not hesitate to ask me. Thank you.